And thanks for staying with us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television AIT. Let me welcome you to the signature show this Sunday. My name, of course, is Mwabu Senchok, and with me this afternoon is my colleague, Vin Martin Obiora. Hello, Vin.
Hello and welcome to your show, the signature show. I am Vin Martin Obiora, and it's my pleasure to be with you here, Mwabeze.
The Nigerian Governors Forum 2 weeks ago decided and agreed that everything about subsidy for petrol should end. And they recommended a pump price of petrol of 384 naira per litre. And just last week, the Nigerian Labour Congress says it will shut down the economy because of it, because that is insensitive and not caring for the Nigerian worker. Then when will this cycle of protests, shutdowns over subsidy, when will it end?
Well, Mwabeze, it's really, really unfortunate that even now we're still talking about stuff like this. Does it make economic sense if you look at the bigger picture for subsidy to go? I think it does. Yes, everybody tells you, oh, it's time, it's overdue for subsidy to go. I agree. But how about the other things that are overdue in our country? It's overdue in our country that our hospitals should work.
Well, Vin, I think
it's overdue in our country that our naira should be stable.
Yes, I think it's a matter of the chicken and the egg.
Yes, because
which one comes first? The government.
And the governors are saying it today because they are governors.
Yes.
They are saying it because they are governors. They were against it when it was even less than 200 naira, when it was even less than 100 and something naira. But today they are governors. They are saying it because when you sit in that position, you think you'll never leave that position.
They will leave someday. Now, Vin, let us raise another issue that is also trending in the polity. The president has just appointed a new chief of army staff.
Well, first of all, we congratulate the new chief of army staff, who is coming on board at a time so much is expected from that office by Nigerians. I think the number one thing in his plate should be how to fight insecurity. But like you said, the other considerations. When, unfortunately, we lost the former chief of army staff at Ahiro, one of the things you saw in almost every platform, in almost every private conversation, was the president going to use this opportunity, to burst the bubble about his penchant for insisting that the only competent people in the country are people from the northern part of the country. And a lot of people had said that even when you look at personnel in the Nigerian army, that there are so many from other parts of the country that the president could choose from. And some people said, oh, the president will never change. And then it happened, he chose another man from the north.
Well said, Vin. Let us go to another issue now. Now the National Assembly members are making effort to give us a new constitution or an amended constitution.
Yes, we need to amend our constitution, especially in a country where everybody is talking about restructuring. You can't restructure without using the instrumentality of the constitution to do that. The problem is that, one, we've been on this merry-go-round for so long. The former assembly spent billions. The former government spent billions. The Jonathan government spent billions trying to amend the constitution. And at the end of the day, nothing is amended.
Okay, Vin, let us. Incidentally, our special report today is on Nigeria's constitution and its operators. Where does the challenge lie? Stay with us.
At the Northwest public hearing on the amendment of the 1999 Constitution, held in Sokoto last Thursday, former governor of Kebbi State and present Senator Adamu Aliero raised issues on either throwing out the present Constitution or making copious and fundamental amendments to make it work. As much as he admitted that there are genuine reasons for devolution of powers, to relieve the federal government of a number of responsibilities and also reduce the revenue allocated to the central administration, Aliero wondered if amendment of the Constitution is at the heart of Nigeria's irritating democratic experience. But what are these annoying and irritating tendencies that make Nigeria's democracy a frustrating, quarrelsome, and sometimes violent relationship among federating groups and interests?
Failure of governance. The governance is not reaching the people. The people reside in the local councils, those demographic, those places, those remote places. That is where you have Nigerians. Nigerians are not just in Abuja and Lagos. They are all over the place. But where do you have governance? The present structure is hijacked. The mode of recruiting the governors and the sort of powers we allow them to actually, what would I call it now, utilize, is indeed the problem that we have. You recruit people with no background that you could rely on for your solutions. You just bring them in because they have money or they've stolen money or they have patronage, and you make them your governors. And they come in, what do they concentrate on? It's about what? Their pockets. They want to be richer than the past governor. They want to be richer than the other governors. They want to make as much money for 100 generations after them. That is their goal. That is where they put their energy. Their energy is not about making life better for the average Nigerian. What should be emphasized, and which I think should be our concern, is developing the political culture, the social culture that would actually be expansive and liberal enough to actually absorb all challenges as they come. If we don't have that culture, believe me, no constitution, no matter how well framed, can really solve our problems. The constitution would never really, by itself, give the people a political culture. Never. And the constitution itself does not generate political values or political morals.
There is a genuine call for reviewing and amending the constitution. There are some areas which needs to be touched or which needs to be amended. And I'm going to give you examples. For example, devolution of powers from the center to the federating units. Despite the flaws we just established from the federating units, like the state actors, the states in the country, despite their flaws, for not allowing other structures to function under them. We cannot, in my own opinion, throw away the baby and the bathwater. What do I mean by that? The fact that a state governor today has refused to allow a politically and constitutionally institution under him to function doesn't mean we cannot strive to amend the constitution to devolve more powers to those federating units. Since we are supposed to be operating a federal constitution, for me, the abolition of more powers, it's really important to me. The items under the exclusive legislative list, there are too many. There are about 68, and we need to trim them down.
The present agitations for amendment of the Constitution seem to hinge on unjustifiable favoritism that blinds the political leadership to needed competence in the affairs of the state and a sense of belonging that can drive a stable and progressive Nigeria. The second is a resource allocation, which many say is designed to create a disgraceful parasitism and footstool states in a nation whose federating nationalities all have the potential to create great and thriving economies.
Until we have a situation where we have leadership driving thought, driving social activity, driving the economy, we can never really have it. It wasn't the regions that created the Nigeria we are longing for. It was the individual personalities behind those regions. When you had a Zik, you have a Awolowo, you have a Tafawa, each and every one of those people, they are sterling in terms of character, in terms of knowledge, and in terms of focus on leadership. That was their life. Their life is about leadership and creating prosperity for the average Nigerian. But do we have those characters today? We don't. It is because we don't have them. That is why we are looking for something to blame. Why is it that we have the state? Is to bring governance home. They have the local government to take it to the grassroots. But what have they done? Do we have governance at that level that would secure our prosperity or promote our own freedoms? No. Of course, all of us, nobody would actually say we are not over pampering the federal government. It is because of those resources. That is why you are having what? This sort of grievance. That is why people would want to hold on to it. But it is you have 51% of the resources of the state. What are you doing with it? When you don't have land, when you don't have a constituency, we are going to leave it to you at your own discretion. And what do you do with that discretion?
Even if power devolves to the federating units, if more revenue is allocated to the states, and these lower levels of governance take more charge of their resources, will these address the irritating and contentious refusal by states to grant financial autonomy to the legislature, the judiciary, and the local governments? Provisions which the present constitution has made and which all state governments brazenly disrespect as if there is no constitution at all. Will a new constitution force the governors, the federal high officials, and well-connected politicians to begin to obey court orders? Will a new constitution force governments to other competence above kindred interests in making appointments? These are some of the issues which make Nigeria's democratic practice an annoying experience for the informed citizen. These questions arise because also the present document, no matter its deficiencies, makes many provisions which Nigeria's political elite have contrived to ignore and run the nation's democracy by whim.
Other things in the Constitution, in my own opinion, that still needs to actually be reviewed or amended, despite some of the provisions, like you mentioned, are right now in the Constitution, but they are not being implemented. They are observed in breach by almost all levels of government. Like the points you made, the local governments are there constitutionally, but the state governors do not allow them to function as such. They control almost everything that has to do with the local government, and it's supposed to be an independent tier of government. You mentioned the judiciary, which they are for their financial autonomy and independence, mostly from the state governors. The federal has tried in that respect. They have given them that, but the state governors, some of them don't want to do that. Why? And it is still in the Constitution. You don't even need executive order 10 to actually do what is in the Constitution. So some of those things that led to the clamoring of and so many agitations that we're witnessing today, they were already taken care of in the Constitution. It's just a matter of obeying it and implementing it.
As the members of the National Assembly organize public hearings across the country, let them realize that in addition to receiving contributions from the Nigerian people, they themselves also have a duty to begin to reinvent democratic practice by insisting that infractions on the provisions of the existing constitution are sanctioned. Citizen activism will also be needed to teach political actors that impunity cannot become the standard practice in our democracy. That way, the agitation for constitution review and the resources being expended in the present process can be worth the effort and expectation of a better democratic regime for Nigeria and Nigerians.
Well, last week we brought you a special report on the controversy over restructuring that was initiated by the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. Now, by popular demand this week, we are going to give you a fuller view from some of our resource persons in that special report. Please stay with us.
Buhari, many of the spokesmen sometimes will tell you are talking of restructuring. Restructuring means many things to many people. When Shehu Down asked Malami if it means many things to many people, but it is in your manifesto. What do you mean by restructuring? Then he went to that basis. Now, take it from there. It is in the Buhari, who has been clamoring to be the head of this government, has been talking about restructuring since 2007. When I felt very, including myself, Baba Adesoya, campaigned for him in Adamasiba. He's talking of restructuring when Pastor Bakari was his running mate. And of late, Dr. Kanka had to challenge him. That what you say you don't mean by restructuring? Is it not one of the things you agree with me? Did I not bring you papers and all that? You will also remember the very APC itself set up a Rufai committee recommending restructuring. Restructuring doesn't mean anything. Go back to federalism. And when they want to confuse the people, the government of the seat, and they have an expert in Lai Mohammed. So he will come and put it together and confuse people. That is the government we are having. They have no clue. By the time you put them to the wall, then they change another song. If you praise them down now, they will say Malami has no authority. And Malami will answer back and say, well, Malami has no authority. You remember the case of the security people who went and attacked the National Assembly? And the Minister of Justice doesn't know about it. That is the government you are having. To be candid, law and order is broken down in this country. We are unfortunate. All this is happening to your face. And that's why I accused the journalists at that time that you don't bring this thing into focus. You pretend you don't know, and you're asking, and your neighbor just ask you, what is your reaction? What is your own reaction? You are more concerned, though. You're good. And your neighbor just need you to say now, I am 93. I'm waiting for my funeral. If you don't rectify this country now and get rid of Buhari and his colleagues, you will suffer for it. He has no program other than to fulanize the country. And you're all pretending. When you want to talk, he's doing fine. Only this one, trying to be politically correct. What is happening in the country that you don't know? When you talk of and then Malami, a lawyer like himself, now comparing announcement who are killing with people who are selling motor pass. So if you ask the Fulani to go, then you ask motor pass to go. What is the comparison? I'm only ashamed as a lawyer. I've never seen a lawyer talking so intelligently and cohesively. It's a shame to my profession and shows the type of quality of people surrounding Buhari. We are talking of people who are raping, who are kidnapping, who are spoiling all in the state, ask them to go. You are comparing them with those who are selling motor parts. And I tell you, if they drive them away, how many houses are selling motor parts? They are going to suffer. But what's the comparison? And my own answer to that is, if you see motor parts raping, molesting your people, send them away. You know, both of us, did they kidnap? Did they spoil yours? What is comparison? That is to show you how these people are insulting this country. Mind you, let me take this opportunity to tell people. The complaint we are having now is that this constitution is not our own. We don't make it. I have asserted that, I have not disputed it. All the complaint that is arising as a result of this constitution is a product of the constitution imposed on us in 1966 by the military Muslims. They have not disputed that. And they now ask us to go amend the constitution through a parliament which is a product of the fraud. To amend the fraud. You see the logicality? The National Assembly they are going about now is a fruitless exercise. It's a product of the constitution we are complaining about. You see how they are insulting us as if we have cattle head? You see the logic. Under what constitution is the National Assembly established? Is it not under this constitution? Is this not the constitution we are complaining that it is not our own? Or did you make it? Absalom has told us that he just put it on us. And we say the constitution we are talking about is go back to where we started. The constitution we had at independence agreed to by Saldana of Sokoto, Dr. Zikwe, Chisoba Femawolowo. That was what we had at independence. That was what we agreed to in London Conference 1954. After the crisis in Nigeria. You see, I feel insulted because I am a part of this constitution. I know the beginning. So all these latter-day Nigerians coming for one Nigeria who came into it midway. When you talk of socialism, they say you want to break Nigeria. Who is breaking Nigeria? Other than those who refuse to keep to the constitution that which Nigeria came together. That's the thing. Don't let anybody confuse by saying you don't know what is socialism. We don't talk of socialism. Go back to federalism. We repeated that times without number. They believe that they don't know. When you talk of socialism, they say you want to secession. I shouted, I don't want secession. I and Afenifere, we have invested in Nigeria more than anybody living, including Buhari. So we can't afford the country to break. But we invested in that Nigeria on an agreed to by the London Constitutional Conference of 1954, which was carried on to 1960, which was carried on to 1963. They have not denied that. It is that constitution that the military changed in 1966 and put all sorts of noxious conditions into the constitution that is causing crisis in the country today. It is under this constitution, you now turn the revenue allocation, which you have agreed to be on the basis of 50% to the center and the state to keep its own. You turn it off. It is the constitution that now say to distribute the revenue landmass that produces nothing. Where in any federation does revenue distributed on the area of landmass? It is a constitution you created local government on your own. You say on your own. What is the basis of the local government created more in the north than in the south? Local government more in the north, state government more in the north than the south. What is the yardstick? They have not told. These are the things that is causing confusion under this constitution. That is what you say we don't want. And then they go and start from the local government. Which local government? The local government they created arbitrarily. These are the issues. And then they go to the National Assembly to amend a thing that we don't know about. You only amend or review the thing that you did originally, and you want to amend it you want to adjust it, you want to panel-beat it. You can't panel-beat a car, you don't know how. The car must have an accident, and you must have the car. What we are saying that we dissolve this constitution we ask us to amend. It is not our own. Let them dispute that.
Oh, okay, but
in a democracy.
just that there's a danger. Go ahead.
No, hold on. Because you people need to be educated. Because they carry all sorts of propaganda. We said, if you don't know, take 2014 Constitutional Conference. Buhari can assemble any better personnel to do constitution for us in this country than those who made that constitution. If you don't agree, then set up your own. You are now coming to the back door to ask us to go before your own court to amend your constitution, asking your people to go around the country and listen to amendment, go and bring paper. You are bringing paper before a judge you don't recognize. What is the status of those who are going around? Are they our nominees? Is that democracy? Please, you people will be bold enough to tell Buhari that we are not monkeys. We know what we are talking about. Those of us who are talking of restructuring does not mean anything that we don't want violence. They are the people giving credence to go to Nnamdi Kanu and to the Igbosi people who are agitating for what this constitution has imposed on them. You have a country, you have to say a section of the country cannot be president, and you want him to say, and then he says that I'm not going to share part of the advantage of your country. Let me go. You say you can't go. You are beating a child, say she don't cry. All these are the injustices in the things that's all right. We don't want war. We don't want them. Let them sit down and agree. You say no. And he has not brought out his own alternative. This is the problem people are not seeing.
Well, first of all, it is political talk. But what is not political talk in Nigeria today? Everything is political talk. If the Minister of Information says the federal government is ready to commence the restructuring process, if you're a responsible Nigerian, you would say, amen. Perhaps they're coming around to understanding that there is a momentum, that there is a pressure, and there is a legitimate reason why this nation should restructure voluntarily rather than under stress, under pressure. Two, it should restructure because Nigerians want it. Three, they should do so because Nigerians want it and it's a good thing for them. So we shouldn't dismiss what Minister Lai Mohammed said, no matter how little credibility we tend to attach these days to what the federal government spokespeople say. We would hope that they're not just talking. However, there's a catch. It's not enough to take the word of the Minister of Information. Nigerians need to see evidence that what he's saying actually represents a genuine and sincere commitment to commence a process that needs to happen now, that must be meaningful, that must touch the core of what restructuring is, and that is not targeted at pushing back a problem so that future generations of Nigerians will inherit it. The bottom line is the federal government needs to be part of the process. When you say the federal government, you're talking about the executive arm, you're talking the legislative arm, even the judiciary, you're talking about state legislators, even governors. It's a huge structure. The issue we're talking about is complex, it's deeply political, and it is absolutely urgent that we address it. So the issue is, one, what will they do? When will they do it? With who do they intend to do this? If the federal government is sincere, it is likely to find that 95% of responsible Nigerian opinion is already on the side of restructuring, and it is isolated. So Lai's comment will be welcome, but we'll have to wait and see. If it is intended simply to create a facade of inclusiveness or enjoy the public popularity, it will annoy Nigerians even more, because this is no time to play around. This is a very, very serious issue, and Nigerians do want to see action. If the government will not be part of this, then I'm afraid the alternative will be what we will see, and nobody wants to see that kind of thing. First of all, it needs to it needs a change, a mindset change. It needs to stop seeing every demand made by Nigerians, every complaint about the governance, about the constitution, about the structure of this country as talk coming from opposition. Opposition is Nigerian. Even talks that is hostile is Nigerian. It needs to change this and begin to see the demands of Nigerians as one of the prices to pay for being in a democratic setting. Nigerians have the right to demand changes in the manner in which the country is structured and functions. So it needs a mindset change, and it is fundamental, because right now everything that happens in this country about the federal government, against the federal government, about the nature of the Nigerian state, the federal government sees as opposition. That's the first one. Secondly, it needs to open itself up. It needs quality inputs from genuine patriots in this country. Some of them opposition, some of them friendly, some of them neutral, if you can find neutral Nigerians, that is. The federal government needs to ask Nigerians to sit with it. Clearly, there is need for some input outside the immediate formal structures of government, the executive branch, the National Assembly. We're not saying anything should happen outside the Constitution, but they need to tap into a huge reservoir of goodwill and serious concern that the nation is headed towards a very dangerous end unless something happens.
Elsewhere also in the country, in Benue, for instance, 2 weeks ago, 116 people were killed within 48 hours between Sunday and Tuesday morning. In the same period, 18 people were killed in 2 locations in Plateau State.
You know, Mobeze, I'm sorry, but this government has to sit up. And what I'm saying, I will be sounding like a cracked record, but I have to. The first duty of a government is to ensure the security of lives and property. It looks like this government is failing in that duty.
Let us pray that this government does not fail vain, because there's also some other people who are engaging with that issue real on this matter. Incidentally, we spoke with the former president of Nigerian Bar Association, Joseph Daudu, senior advocate of Nigeria, whether Nigeria is verging on crimes against humanity.
Well, we'll serve you that interview. Just sit back. This is your signature show.
Son, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Now, I want to ask, just for my own education, what is crime against humanity? What constitutes crime against humanity?
Now, put very simply, for us, even for myself to understand, they are acts that are deliberately committed or directed against targeted civilians as part of a widespread or systematic policy, either in times of war or peace. So put simply, that is what crimes against humanity is. And they range from outright genocide, murder, persecution, land grabbing, torture, slavery or enslavement, sexual violence, and forced disappearance. The list is not limited. So that, in a nutshell, appears to define what crimes against humanity is.
That is in a simple form, and I think I appreciate that education. But when does a person or a group, when can a person, a group, be accused of having committed crime against humanity?
That's also very simple. When such group, by omission or commission, cause the definition I've given you to happen to a group of individuals, community, or people, tribe, race, ethnic group, when there is such a targeted act that brings to an end or tries to bring to an end their existence as a group, either by death, either by mass deportation, or either by some other wicked form of prehistoric behavior, the people are separated from their land. That amounts, in a nutshell, to the implication of crime against humanity. And those who are involved are either those who carry out the acts physically and directly, or those who allow those acts to happen. For instance, government or the state is, by the principles or doctrine of social compacts, has acquired our rights to go and defend ourselves, to stake arms, to engage in ethnic conflicts, to protect ourselves at that level. And in exchange, they have promised us security, orderliness, justice, equity, fairness, and we pay taxes for that to happen. Now, where government facilitates the attack by omission or by keeping quiet or by some surreptitious subterranean means, the elimination of certain groups, either on the basis of affinity of tribe, on the basis of religion, on the basis of other distinctive factor, such government is complicit of such crimes against humanity. And you see, for such crimes, there is no limitation period. There is no period where it can lapse. Such people will be pursued, like the Nazis. There are some that are over 100 years old. They are still targeting them and bringing them to justice. So anybody who partakes in that and thinks he will get away with it, so long as the records are there and the evidence is available, and the people who supplanted other people on the land are still there to say, we were brought there by X, Y, Z, when things have changed. Of course, there will be evidence to pursue and prosecute such people at the highest levels in this world.
Senior advocate, let me draw your attention to two statements. Yes. The first I want to draw attention to is that why the Islamic cleric Gumi have been trying to facilitate a conversation that could help us address this banditry. He came across a group of bandits who said something quite audacious. They said, look, cows do not turn to rifles. It's government that is giving us the rifles. On this program, I had said that maybe those bandits did not know the difference between their sponsors and government. I had said so. But let me cite a second example. The governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, has on more than 3 occasions said, look, Meiti Allah wrote me and told me that unless I gave up land of Benue State for them to use for open grazing, we will come and kill you. I'm quoting him. And consistently, just in the past 3 weeks, over 100 people killed within 48 hours, over 70 killed, and there is this current story that even those killing them are taking over their land in an open and brazen manner. Are we seeing the vestiges? Are we seeing certain ingredients that could warrant us begin to fear that crime against humanity is being committed in this kind of situation in Nigeria?
Well, that is at the proof stage where evidence is required. Then all these things will come into play to show that there exists evidence to reach a conclusion that crimes against humanity have been committed. But I think what is important at this stage is to highlight not only the certainty of retribution, the retributive justice to those who are perpetrating this kind of conduct, but to show that it's an entirely futile exercise. If this was happening just post-slave trade era, the 18th century or early 19th century, one would have understood that the mentality is such that a group of people can think that ethnic or tribal warfare is the way to acquire land. But the world has moved beyond that. And the fact that we have all gone to school has opened our eyes to the fact that these are futile methods, very primitive methods of land acquisition. There is no doubt, and the evidence abounds, that certain people still think they are still immersed in that kind of primitive reasoning that it is okay to engage in ethnic warfare at this point in time in the 21st century. At a time when the world is talking about globalization, when people are beginning to see the world as one village, it is no longer fashionable. The futility of it is that if today you do ethnic cleansing, you grab land, you put your people there, the people you put there will be prima facie answerable. What of the children of those you expelled? Won't they come back one day to claim back their land? It is a vicious cycle. You cannot acquire land. You can buy. People sell land. You can apply for the state to give you. It's there in the Land Use Act. So I think that these events, sordid events, apparently having I do not want to say the concurrence of government, but the fact that government appears to be helpless, and we know that nobody can overpower government, has led a lot of people, including myself, to think that there's complicity in this kind of happening. And the mere fact that that happens gives, triggers up the issue of accountability. Who will be called to account, whether for the acts of commission or the acts of omission, to bring this to a halt? I've had communities tell us when we go on fact-finding that it is usually convenient for those marauders to attack them even when they serve them notice. At times they're as audacious as giving notice to the communities that we are coming. And they inform the law enforcement agents, the military and other defense forces who are supposed to protect them. Conveniently, at that point in time, there will be no military presence. Shortly after the mayhem has been committed, and some youths want to go after these people, then you see them coming to block any attempt for defense or reprisal. And that is the sad part of it. So when you have such a situation, whether government intends it or not, people lose confidence in the ability of the state to provide justice to the people. It seems as if it's a self-serving government, serving only the interests of a certain group of people. No nation is run or governed in that manner. Because sooner than later, things will change. And like at that point in time, when people now ask for accountability, it will that demand for accountability will now be treated as if it is a witch hunt, or as if at that point forgetting the historical steps that led to the demand for accountability. But it is well nigh impossible for 100,000 people to eliminate millions of people. They may get to the point of taking out 1 or 2 million, but that instinct of survival will enter the rest, even if it is to fight with sticks. You cannot take over, because we've been here on these lands for centuries, for thousands of years, and people have been able to defend their turf. So all these are a nuisance attempt, to, first of all, in my view, bring an end to the entity called Nigeria. Make it a state without an identity, so that a new state can be formed whereby these marauders can lay claim to supremacy and authority. But I know that that is not going to work. A few people, unfortunately, will lose their lives, or many people. But very soon, people will wake up to it and take steps that will make it completely impossible to achieve.
Sir, let me seek a little solution, a legal solution. In the circumstance of the experience in this country with these marauders, these people trying to grab land, is there anything the victims can do collectively, legally, to be able to sound a legal warning, to be able to seek a legal redress, and to be able to tell those either doing it or complicit that there is always punishment, sanction for this kind of action?
Yes, it's very simple. First of all, record must be kept. Secondly, the communities must organize themselves in such a way as to point out to the whole world that our necks are on the slaughter slab. We are being turned into lambs led to the slaughter. We are being persecuted. The world will not know, especially in this era of the social media and other fast means of communication. Groups who are targeted cannot just fold their hands and then surrender their lives and say we are helpless. You must first scream, shout out, both internally and externally. Let the world be watching. I do not like citing the examples, but had the Jews kept quiet, nobody would know today that they suffered that degree of inhumanity as a result of the Holocaust. I don't also like giving the examples, but Nigeria lost about 3 million lives during the Biafran War. That is on record. Even though the state has come and tried through Gawan, the 3 R's, reconciliation and the rest, and we have forged a semblance of return to unity. But the injustices are still there. And even with the passage of one generation to the other, it is difficult to forget these things. So what the seeds of division, sorrow, and societal imbalance that are being sown now will not be reaped now, to be reaped far in the future. But to answer your question directly, the people concerned must not just, in the biblical manner, turn the other cheek. The era of turning cheeks has passed. People must take steps to defend themselves in the short and in the long term. Long term being calling for national and international justice, because the world is a global village. Some of these people, because of the euphoria of power, because of the benefits that are obtained from it, because of the distraction it offers to malfeasance in government, the looting of funds and everything, people create distractions at the expense of lives. So that while we are battling with trying to run helter-skelter for safety, some people are filling their pockets and sacks with a lot of things. So people have different motives for it. I don't believe that all are bloodthirsty just for the purpose of land. No. The land grabbing is a prelude to some greater thing, that is seizing the resources of this country and appropriating or arrogating it to a few. Is the principles of economics that the scarce resources that are available should be dominated. It's a very primitive economics. But if you end up, and then people do not know that nobody really has control over how long you live in this world. You may be healthy this morning, but by afternoon, the people may be singing your departure, your non-dimitis. So I just think it's an exercise in futility. We should go back to how God ordained us to live, which is by justice. And the state should be number one, led by the president or the head of state, in affording justice and equity and fair play to the entire society.
Just my last question. Suppose my community was a victim of this mass murder, burning, and attempt to grab the land. Is there any basis for me to approach any Nigerian court to say, save me from this because I'm suffering this? Is there any
Yes,
basis?
there's a basis you can go, but it's a very tepid move that you'll be making because it will not solve anything. First of all, these are courts that are prone to going on strike instead of being there for people to come and lodge their legitimate complaints. Secondly, is that most of the people, they're thinking the same way as the oppressive ruling class, I'm sorry to say. So that empathy may not be there. And thirdly is that of fear. Will they not turn on me if I decide to give judgment in favor of this community that has come to say, give us a declaration at home that we are victims of genocide, so that we can take to the International Criminal Court that we have a judgment from home, enforce it against these people, and make sanctions, invite them, issue an international arrest warrant against them. Because the real independence of the judiciary is not in asking for financial autonomy. No, it's in having courageous people that can make the kind of declaration for the community you have given in court that, yes, you have suffered injustice. The inability of our courts to pronounce on injustices is the real cause of lack of independence in the judiciary. Not in sharing. In fact, the money given to them dissuades them from being just and fair in the circumstance. However, your community, my community, will be better advised in this situation to defend itself, because the state is no longer available to defend one. Some of us may be insulted, targeted for saying this, but I think everybody already knows that we are getting back to the Hobbesian principle of life being very short and brutish, and that is a matter of survival of the fittest. Until we can survive, and that means defend yourself, well, there's no life. And that's when you can go to court. So there needs to be a change of attitude on the part of government, on the part of our people. When government sees that people are ready to do, first of all, we provide ourselves, in most cases, water by borehole, provide our security, provide a lot of things that the state should be providing. Yet they ask me to come and pay taxes. However, it's a learning process. But both sides must be ready to assert their turf. So at the end of the day, the principles of social compact, the social contract, can be enforced on a very even balance. So I think that all communities must defend themselves.
Well, Joseph Daudo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former President of Nigerian Bar Association, a man healed in law and its application. I'm going to thank you very much for coming to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Chizingaku. Thank you.
Well, that's where we draw the curtain on this edition of the program. We want to thank you for investing your time with us, Vin.
Thank you for joining us. Don't forget you can reach us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can send us messages to our email, newsroom@signaturetv.org. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo. Let's do this again, same time Sunday.
But Vin, before that Sunday, the big one. From July, there'll be the return of the big one.
Corruption Tori. Don't miss Corruption Tori Season 2, Corruption in Your Language. It's a fight we all have to join. And we're inviting you to join us, even now, but more importantly, on the 4th of July. Bye for now.
My name remains Mwabos Njoku. Let's meet sometime next Sunday. Good afternoon.